Good evening, Teague Sky here. This is number one of I don't know how many. It's on the channel Teague Sky at Teague Sky 0959. If you want to keep up with this. Okay, so we promised that we would do this, so we're going to do this. And it's called reading the book that we had published a couple of years ago, which is, you can't really tell what it says because it's backwards, I think, but it's The Trauma of an American Education, 60 Years of Stories. It's a paperback. It's out there if you want it, but we're going to read it so that, some people buy it, they don't really read it because people don't read much anymore. Not many people move in that direction, so a lot of people have told us that they want us to read it, that they want someone else to hear it who won't read it, or they can't afford to buy it, so I want to just read it to them. If anybody can afford to help out, we sure do need the help these days, and carving out a little place for ourselves here in the Gila forest, and it's a lot of work, and even using a lot of recycled. It's a lot. So if you ever wish to donate money to this effort that we're making to stay alive and thrive, even please feel free to contact me and ask me how to do that. We have a lot of different ways that you can do it. I'm going to start with part of the dedication. I'm not going to read the whole dedication because, who wants to hear a whole dedication, but also I will tell you that we're rewriting this because we left a lot out. We thought we were dying when we wrote this. We didn't know that we would survive what they said we couldn't survive, but evidently more lives than a cat. So the dedication to The Trauma of an American Education, 60 Years of Stories, written by one Teague Sky, who's not really one but 10. Dedication. Much gratitude to all the folks with whom we have worked in any capacity. Thank you for your faith, trust, and patience. For your willingness to throw caution to the wind and accept responsibility for yourself and your own learning. For your sense of humor in the darkest of times, your kindness in the most difficult, and for adding your efforts and your voice to the outliers of society who would be in the center leading if we had a culture rather than merely a society. Thank you all for allowing us to walk along on a bit of your journey toward becoming yourselves. Thank you for teaching us lessons we never would have learned without your guidance. And then I'm going to read the author's note. I'm not going to read much more tonight, but I will be reading every Sunday night. And sometimes it'll be by the fire, but the wind kicked up tonight, so we're inside. We don't want to start a forest fire, folks. Nobody here ever wants to start a forest fire. This book is comprised of my own recollections and as such represents one minuscule perspective. I am certain there are myriad others out there regarding the same events as many were involved. Therefore, if you read this or listen to this and you have another viewpoint to share, please feel free to write and publish your own book. Or in this case, you can put it in the comments. I'd buy one. Also, I'd buy one if I had the money. Also, if you think you recognize yourself in here, you're most likely incorrect. We've changed names, genders, even at times localities, and we've used no real names nor locations as originally named. So there. Besides, if you want to sue me, all you're going to get At that point, I said, is a 2007 Corolla. At this point, you won't get anything. May real learning occur everywhere, and may schools as we have known them dissolve away like sugar cubes in warm pea, so something far more real and meaningful and courageous can occur in this country. Peace, y'all. There's 3 parts to this book: my education, the academy experience, and public schools. My education starts in 1964. I'll start reading section 1, but I'm not allowed to read for more than 10 minutes, I promised my sister mom. Section 1, my education. I really wanted to say my education, because that's what was going on then. My first formal educational experiences began a couple of months before I turned 5, when I walked to kindergarten alone. I still can't say kindergarten. Although most of my many brothers and sisters also walked to school at the same time each morning, the kindergarten was in a school different than any they needed to walk to, and so I walked alone. Had I only tasted ease in life until then, it would certainly qualify as my first serious trauma. As it was just another and further proof that the grown-ups were not only lost and clueless, but dangerous and terrifying. After that, it was more of a roller coaster through hell than a merry-go-round, which is what it generally can amount to for many folks. And there's this little quote here, one of these cutout quotes where you make them all big and everything. It's a Margaret Mead quote that actually I have seen in town in Silver City, New Mexico, in a mosaic outside of the preschool, nursery school kind of gig on campus there. It says, "Children must be taught how to think, not what to think." Margaret Mead. And if you're into education, you got to check out her book. Blueberry Winter. And that is Margaret Mead's autobiography. And if you're not into nonfiction, you like fiction, you find nonfiction too dry, check that out. She had quite the education. Her mama and her grandma took care of her, she and her sister, and they learned right well, but they didn't go to school, not as most people know it. Here's how this chapter begins, and we have about 2 minutes, so we'll just get through a couple pages. Kindergarten was a warning shot. Sadly, it was a formative one, which left me feeling as though I had a cannonball-sized void between my ribs where my upper guts should have been. Instead of guts, there was an empty hole, a clean shot, see-through, like a Saturday morning Elmer Fudd cartoon or something, but with a soundtrack more appropriate to the film Rosemary's Baby. This was certainly an entryway into a level of Hades not described in Dante's Inferno, which, yes, I was somewhat familiar with due to having read many selections from the Encyclopedia collection by my sister mum that previous summer, and having enjoyed some of William Blake's prints as a result. Despite being one of the youngest in the class age-wise, I was much older than many of my classmates, decades older. In 1964, childhood trauma had yet to be discovered. No one spoke of abuse unless it was a neighbor mistreating a yard dog too viciously and too openly. What happened at home stayed there, decades before the Vegas saying, in the back of the closets in the basement corners and moldy crud collecting in the cracks everywhere. It hung and rotted. And of course, Teachers had a full range of negative responses to unacceptable behavior, or merely to their own symptomatic frustration with too many children in too small a space for far too long a period of time every day. It even had a name, corporal punishment, and it was still legal in every state. Adults could do whatever they wanted to their children or students. The cruelty of ageism is not unknown to children. Anything went. So I got to be abused there as well, harassed and hated. I still wear scars on my hands from where the teachers walked about with a ruler extending... I'm going to begin that again. I still wear scars on my hands from the teachers who walked about with a ruler extending from their right sleeve as though an extra appendage fit for cruelty. I had a thing for touching, to understand. We currently refer to this as tactile learning, a term coined by John Gardner in the 80s with his discovery of various types of intelligence other than the mere academic aspect educators had been convinced mattered until then. But not then, not in 1964. Then it was unnecessary, snooping, even rebellious. Rebellious? At age 4 and 5? And let's all remember that when we are 4 and 5 years old, we key off of grown-ups enough to force ourselves to become what they say we are. Not even if they are cruel, but especially if they are cruel, for then a child's very life and sanity may depend on becoming exactly what they name her, what they demand he become. At home, my middle name was Trouble. I knew this as I had heard it enough in my short 5 years on the planet, in a household wherein chaos was only ever disrupted by rage. And believe me, by the time I had gotten out of that particular hellhole of a school, I was well into my 5th year, and supposedly causing a great deal of trouble everywhere I went.